All right, so next let's talk about the balance of speed and precision. All right, now this is kind of the fundamental principle behind all shooting. All shooting is kind of a balance of these two elements. Now there's three fundamentals that we're going to look at when we talk about the balance of speed and precision, right? One fundamental is that the target itself is going to dictate the level of precision that's necessary. Okay, it kind of makes sense, right? Your application of your skills is going to determine if you get a hit or not, right? And that's important, right? It's like you have to apply all your skills and do them well enough to actually get the hit, unless you get lucky. Right? I mean, everybody can get lucky now and then. But most importantly, your confidence in your shooting ability is going to be the thing that kind of dictates the speed at which you fire shots, unless you're just blasting away because you're panicked or fearful. All right, now let's look at some things that go into how these fundamentals play in the balance of speed and precision. All right, the first important concept to talk about is deviation. All right, so deviation is essentially the difference between where you intended a shot to hit and where the shot actually hit. So if this is my target here, all right, and I intended my shot to hit right there in the middle, and it in fact landed over here, well, my deviation is about that 1 inch. All right, so that's just deviation. It's basically the difference between where the shot landed and where you intended it to land. All right, but this is kind of a two-dimensional view of it. All right, so let's look at a three-dimensional view of that same thing where we've got a firearm that's going to shoot at some target over here. Make it a little bit bigger. All right, and so now we've got our gun here. Not a very good artist. All right, so if our deviation, and we'll just put a distance out here, let's say this is 1 yard and 3 yards and 5 yards and 7 yards. All right. Now, if we have a certain amount of deviation, I'm just going to draw a little bit of a cone here. All right, and let's remember that this is kind of in 3 dimensions, okay? So this is actually a cone. Now, if I were to stick my target right here at 1 yard, the amount of deviation I would get would be, you know, let's say this is three feet here. This is only going to be 1 foot of deviation up and down, and in fact, in a circle, right? And it could be anywhere in that circle. All right, so it could be landing anywhere in this 1 foot circle. Now, if I go a little further out and I go out to 3 yards, right, that very same skill level, holding the gun still to a certain degree, working my trigger properly to a certain degree, holding the gun still on those sights, is going to actually result in a larger potential area that my round could land. So now, out here at 3 yards, that same amount of control over the deviation is going to result in the round landing anywhere in a much larger area. All right, so I think you guys get the concept here that the further out we go, the longer that deviation cone grows and the larger the distances that we have to account for where our shot could land. All right, so how do we make our shots land more accurately? All right, we're going to use this little training aid here to represent your sights. All right, and what we need to do to be able to get intuitive sighted fire, all right, so this is essentially, we're going to use the sights to make these shots to narrow our cone of deviation, right, is we have to get our sights aligned. All right, now, a good sight alignment is going to look something just like this, where we've got a nice straight line across the top between the rear sight and the front sight, and we've got equal light on either side of that sight. All right, now, that's all well and good, right? There's my sight alignment. But what I need to do is I actually have to create a sight picture by taking the sight and superimposing it on my target. So for instance, if this was my target, I might superimpose it right there. All right, and that is my sight picture. It's a nicely aligned sight with that sight picture superimposed over the target area at the spot that I want the shot to hit. All right, now, to do this properly, we need to make sure that we're closing one eye, right? Typically it's going to be the eye on your weak side. And we got to get a hard focus on the front sight. All right? Remember, this is actually happening in 3 dimensions. I put this up here in a 2-dimensional space, right? But in reality, there's going to be some spatial separation between that target and the front sight and the rear sight And since your eye needs to focus on something to be able to get a nice accurate sight alignment, you need to be focusing on that front sight. If you leave your focus on the target, your issue is going to be that those sights are going to be blurry. All right, we need those sights to be crisp to be able to do the sighted fire that we need. All right, so that's how we're going to do this. Now let's talk about finally the 4 different factors that can impact speed and precision. All right, and you kind of probably have already thought about these, right? So when we said that the target dictates the level of precision, well, what we're talking about there is not only the size of the target, right? If we have a small target, then we better make sure that we're controlling the weapon enough that that cone of deviation is small enough so that we keep our target area within inside that cone, okay? So we're going to be less tolerant of deviation. We may have to hold the gun more still, all right? We may have to do some things to kind of control that gun. All right? But furthermore, obviously, when we look at this picture again, the distance away, all right? As we get further away, that distance is magnifying the deviation. Here it's just this much. Here it's even more. Out here, that deviation gets large. It might actually be much larger than our target size, which means that we're not really probably going to be able to make that shot consistently. All right? Now, so those are the 2 obvious factors. The 2 maybe less obvious factors are your ability to anticipate the need to shoot and the conditions under which you're actually shooting, right? So let's talk about anticipation, right? Let's say we're at the range and everything's nice and calm, we're having a good time, right? Our ability to make a shot is going to be pretty good based on our anticipation because we know we're about to shoot. There's no surprise involved. We know what our target is. We really don't have to do a whole lot of thinking about it. We're just going to present the gun out to the target and fire a shot at our target, all right? Our anticipation there was pretty easy. We know what we're doing. But if I'm on the street, and I'm at the ATM machine, and I'm just kind of oblivious in my own little world, and then all of a sudden I feel a stiff gun barrel in my back, all right? All of a sudden now, my ability and a need to be able to anticipate the opportunity to shoot here has gone to 0, right? It's too late, all right? Now, if there's something in between, I've got some kind of stimulus that I'm reacting to that's off in the distance, I have more opportunity to kind of get myself in that shooting mindset and be ready to shoot. All right, so that ability to anticipate it as opposed to being surprised is going to have a definite impact on what kind of speed and what kind of precision that we're able to bring to it. And then finally, obviously, the conditions, right? If it's dark, if it's rainy, if it's wet, all of those things are going to reduce our ability to perform at our usual level, right? And what's that liable to do? That's liable to lower our confidence level, right? And as that confidence level goes down, what do we say? Confidence determines the speed that we're going to need to shoot. So bad conditions lower our confidence and are likely to lead to a reduction in the speed. All right, so that is in a nutshell, and it's a big nutshell, okay, how we think about the balance of speed and precision. Now, for the next part of the class, we're going to spend quite a bit of time working on some drills that'll help you guys kind of hone in on this kind of balancing act and help your training develop the skills necessary to determine what kinds of skills and when you need to apply them so that you're doing the appropriate balance of speed and precision.